Hey there, welcome back to Startup Screen Printing. My name is Jesse. You're listening to episode 6 of the Startup Screen Printing Podcast. Today I want to start a series of episodes where I'm going to try to tackle the topic of pricing. Now, I've got lots of disclaimers to give with this. Just as with all my other content, I'm no expert with this. I'm not coming to the table with exact metrics and science on exactly how you should price your orders for your business. I'm only going to bring suggestions and things that I have done and what parts of pricing have been important to me. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. I will get into the numbers. We'll get into developing a formula that will help you establish pricing for your business, but not quite yet in this first episode. So the first thing I want to tackle are really just more foundational topics, foundational decisions that I feel like you need to make before you really develop a solid pricing strategy for your business. The first of those points, we'll just jump right into it. It's been common practice that I've seen it many times over the years for a shop that's getting started or not quite started yet, or even a year or two in, to ask other shops what they would price. Whether that's asking online and forums and things, or sometimes it's, calling a shop across town, your competition, and, use a fake name and see what they would price an order, or a fake email or something like that. And honestly, I just believe that's the wrong way to go about it. I think that it's just you're setting yourself up for more frustration down the road, because if you don't have a full understanding of exactly why your pricing is the way it is and why the formula spits out that number, then you're gonna be in more trouble down the road when you can't cover your costs and your expenses. So I think when you base your pricing on other shops and what their pricing is and their pricing strategies, that's built for them and it's on their expenses. It takes their situation into consideration. So I think it's important for you to develop your own pricing strategy based on your situation. What are your monthly expenses? What are your profit goals? What's your profit margin that you would like to have? What's your output capabilities? All of these come into play as you develop your pricing. And I think it's important that all that's taken into consideration is your situation. And yes, your situation will change. Your expenses will change. Your overhead will change. And your pricing should change along with that. But it should not be based on what the shop across town has their pricing set at. And I know your first thought is probably, well, but what if my pricing is higher than theirs? And to that, all I can say is I've never worried about that. I know that's a possibility for my shop and my prices when I give a price to a customer, but I always, oftentimes I'll even tell the customer, I might be more expensive than another shop. And if so, I'm okay with that. I can give you an incredible experience and I will make sure that it is the best quality shirt you could possibly buy. But if price is your thing, if you really need to get the cheapest bid here, you might need to go with them if they're cheaper. And I'm okay with that. But that's just me. That may not be the way you want to go about this, and that's okay. I'm not saying either way is wrong. So I just think that it's important that your pricing is developed based on your situation. So that's what I tell my customers. My pricing is my pricing because of the way I do business and the way my shop is set up and my expenses and the quality of the product I provide. So whether sometimes I'm cheaper than the other guys, sometimes I'm more expensive, and I'm okay with it being either of those situations. The second thing that I think you need to understand and just kind of keep in mind as you're developing your pricing, especially if you're just getting started, is it's going to change. What you price something now is going to be different from what you price it, next year even. Like, you should make it a practice every year in your business to re-examine what you're charging for things, re-examine your entire pricing formula to make sure that you're still continuing to keep the same trajectory that you wanted to, that you're covering your costs, because cost of things go up. And granted, those costs should be built into your pricing, but the cost of tape, or the cost of paper for your printer, like those types of things are going to come into play and they're going to grow, and they're not always going to be built into your pricing. You may need to add them as you grow. So don't feel like you have to get this right from day one. You just need to get something established, and you need to make sure that it covers your costs. And then after that, it's just profit. And so you decide how much profit you want to have, how many discounts you give early on as you're getting started. Is it really important to you that you're making a lot of money, or is it more important that you get a lot of orders? So, decide what's more important to you, and maybe you just want to barely cover the margins to begin with and get as many orders as you can to get experience, and that's fine. That's one way to go about it, and that would be fine. But just understand that it's going to change, so you don't feel pressured to get it exactly right, especially if you're just getting started. It's going to change. So it's okay if you don't get it right. And in fact, you can pretty much guarantee you're not going to get it to a point to where you're not going to touch it again next year or in several years. So it's going to change, and that's okay. But I do think the next step from there is making a plan, knowing that as you set this foundation, plan from the very beginning that, hey, I'm going to set this for where I'm at now, and then I'm going to re-examine. If you're just getting started, re-examine in 6 months, and then re-examine again in another 6 months, and then maybe another 6 months again, and then maybe at that point you can examine on a 12-month cadence. But you should re-examine as you go. As the years go by, you should always be maintaining and re-examining your pricing formula to make sure that you're still covering your costs and that you're, again, keeping your business on the trajectory that you want it to be. That was one of the huge mistakes of the shop that I started working at early on. I remember that, the friends of mine had bought it, and I remember coming to them when I first started there and like, okay, here's how we price things. Okay, well, why? Where did that number come from? And they're like, I don't know. It's just the way they did it. And I'm like, well, that's awful. How could we ever grow if we don't really understand why our pricing is the way it is and what numbers and variables go into it? So we'll get into all the different variations of pricing, all the variables that go into developing a pricing formula later, but I wanted to just make sure that we're starting off on the right foot. And I believe that is that we're going to develop pricing that we know is going to change, but it just gets us started. We're going to develop pricing that is based on our situation and not another shop's situation. And I think those two, are key points to help you get started on the right foot. So in the next episodes, we'll go ahead and start digging into the formula. What's included in pricing. How do you even come about understanding, what your pricing is going to be, and then how do you calculate that? I'll go into an application that I use to help myself calculate that, and it keeps track of all the different pricing that I've provided to people over the years. So I'll, give you some insight into that and some recommendations on that. But again, just wanted to start off with this kind of base foundation of understand that we're going to approach pricing with a mindset focused on just our business, just your situation and not anybody else's, so that you can be sure it is right for you. I've said, you've heard me say this a million times in all my other content. Just because it's right for somebody else doesn't mean it's right for you. And just because it's wrong for them doesn't mean it's wrong for you. So we're going to figure out what's right for you. And so that's where we're going to start. So next episode, we'll dig into more of the variables that go into pricing. How do you what's all the consideration? What is the information I even need from a customer in order to give them a price? That's going to help us develop a good pricing strategy, and then we'll go from there. So until then, hope you guys have a great day. Hope you're enjoying more of the content, the videos that I'm posting. I'm enjoying the feedback that I'm getting from you. I look forward to hearing more. So until then, hope you have a great day.